Short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before.
The Middle East has once again erupted into a dangerous new chapter of confrontation, and this time the violence is not confined to isolated exchanges or symbolic strikes. What U.S. and Israeli officials are calling a coordinated military operation against Iran has unfolded into what many are describing as the opening phase of a potentially protracted and wide-ranging conflict. The rapid sequence of events has already shaken global capitals, drawn sharp criticism from foreign governments, and prompted urgent calls for renewed diplomacy even as missiles, warplanes, and cyber tools are reported to be shaping a conflict that could last far beyond a single day's action. Before we break down this unfolding and complex situation, take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you can stay informed with the latest developments as more information becomes available. From the start, U.S. and Israeli military leaders made clear that the strikes launched on February 28, 2026, were not isolated or incidental. Instead, they described the operation as a joint campaign coordinated at multiple levels months in advance, with synchronized targeting and planning between the Pentagon and Israel's defense forces. That level of preparation marked these strikes as the product of long-standing concern over Iran's military, nuclear program, and alleged threats to regional stability, and, according to Israeli military authorities, as part of a broader operation dubbed Lion's Roar, or similar code names signaling strategic intent rather than a one-off retaliation. This is important because it speaks to the scale and intent behind the missions. Officials on both sides have indicated that this is not being treated as a limited strike, but rather as the opening of a broader campaign that could continue for days, weeks, or longer. Rather than beginning and ending with a handful of coordinated bombings, senior strategists have hinted that multiple phases are already planned, encompassing not only immediate military targets but also long-range assets, infrastructure, and political leadership centers. That shift in language and posture signals an escalation far beyond simple retaliation or symbolic posturing and into the realm of sustained military engagement. From the outset, the division of responsibilities between U.S. and Israeli forces has been framed as part of that broader strategy. U.S. officials reportedly focused much of their initial strikes on military assets seen as near-term threats, including ballistic missile launchers, naval vessels, and other defense infrastructure understood to provide Iran with leverage against both Israel and American forces across the Middle East. The rationale given by Washington, as framed by senior military sources, was to degrade Iran's capacity for rapid response or retaliation and to ensure air superiority as the campaign unfolds. At the same time, Israeli forces have been reported to direct their actions toward what are described as leadership and regime targets. That includes sites associated with high-ranking figures in the Iranian government and military command, as well as sensitive centers of political influence in Tehran. According to multiple news reports, explosions were heard near government buildings and symbols of state authority in Iran's capital, and Israel cited its goal of dismantling or neutralizing perceived existential threats posed by Iran's top leadership. The list of reported strike locations is extensive. While independent verification amid active conflict remains challenging, multiple outlets and official statements have indicated that Iranian institutions ranging from the Defense Ministry to parliamentary offices, national security councils, and atomic energy facilities were affected. Some reports have even mentioned strikes targeting compounds linked to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other senior officials, though confirmation of casualties or damage to specific leadership figures remains difficult to obtain in real time. One of the most sensitive aspects of the strikes has been the focus on nuclear-related infrastructure. Long before this latest escalation, tensions had simmered for years over Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Although recent negotiations in 2026 aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear program had faltered, the decision to hit sites connected with nuclear research and development, including facilities near Qom and other strategic locations, reflects a clear prioritization of reducing perceived nuclear threat capabilities. Analysts suggest that if additional precision strikes occur, possibly involving long-range assets like stealth bombers or standoff weapons, the impact on Iran's nuclear timeline could be significant, with some officials characterizing previous U.S. strikes in 2025 as having set back the program by years. In addition to kinetic strikes, there are reports of cyber warfare components being employed in tandem. Although details are still emerging, security analysts and open-source reporting suggest that U.S. cyber operators have targeted Iranian digital infrastructure, disrupting critical networks such as internet access, state media broadcasts, and communications channels. This type of multi-domain warfare, combining physical assaults with digital attacks, illustrates the complexity of modern conflict and underscores how military campaigns today are not limited to traditional bombs and missiles, but also encompass efforts to degrade an adversary's ability to command, control, and communicate effectively. As expected, the Iranian response was swift. Within hours of the U.S. and Israeli onslaught, Iran's paramilitary forces reportedly launched missiles and possibly drone barrages aimed at U.S. bases and allied positions in the Gulf region. Reports from international news agencies indicated that several Gulf states hosting American forces, including Bahrain and Qatar, experienced explosions and missile interceptions, though no significant casualties were immediately confirmed. In conclusion, the recent military action by the United States and Israel marks a significant escalation in Middle Eastern conflict dynamics. Rather than a single strike, this appears to be the opening phase of a campaign with far-reaching strategic implications. With multi-domain engagement, regional retaliation, and political targets involved, the situation remains fluid and highly volatile. How it unfolds in the coming days, whether toward further confrontation or urgent diplomatic intervention, will shape global security discussions and the future of U.S.-Iran relations. For ongoing coverage and detailed updates as events continue to develop, consider subscribing so you don't miss future reports.